women's body count matters biologically. I'm a neuroscientist. Let me explain. Studies show that women absorb and retain the DNA of every man they've been with via sperm. This foreign DNA has been found in the brain, organs, and reproductive system, but nobody talks about the consequences. And that DNA isn't just stored, it's used in creating future children. A woman's past men leave a permanent biological imprint. Ever wonder why some kids resemble an ex more than their father? This is usually why. While the father provides most of the DNA, genetic material from past men is also used. And it's not just looks. Physical and mental disorders can be passed down as well. The more men a woman has been with, the higher the risk of negative mutations in her future children. So ladies, your past doesn't disappear. Every man leaves a mark on your body and your future children. And fellas, think twice before having a child with a woman who's been with too many men, because you won't be the only one shaping that child.
Ooh. Listen, there was so much there we must unpack. But when I was in university, I came across some interesting ideas, namely those of eugenics, which increasingly seem a bit important today. And the term telegony came up, which I went to Berkeley, which is a school of Marx. And of course, there's certain ideas that they absolutely don't like, entire schools of thought that they disregard. And telegony certainly being one of those, which they attribute to racists and negative eugenics. They ignore the possibility of positive eugenics. And so with that being the case, what's your commentary on the idea that telegony has been disproven? A, has it been disproven? B, are you speaking of telegony? Talk to me.
So telegony is an outdated theory, an outdated term, to be more specific, that suggests that traits from females' previous partners can influence offspring of subsequent females. So that old school idea was dismissed because it lacked a genetic mechanism. So now we understand more into epigenetics and the molecular inheritance. Since we better understand that, the idea that they can influence the offspring is now becoming fact the more research we've done. So it's very exciting because there's going to be a lot of positive benefits for men and women when these tests develop.
So let's dig in a little bit. Are you suggesting that telegony, the concept is obsolete just because it was disproven, but it was disproven at the time wherein those who disproved it did not have enough science to actually draw that conclusion? Is that what you're saying?
So yes, in a way. So how the theory of evolution, when it was first promoted to the world, it had a slightly different definition than we have now. So we didn't necessarily replace telegony completely. It's under the umbrella of epigenetics now. It can be looked at in kind of four main sections is how I viewed it. So you can either get it through like sperm RNA and epigenetic marks, semen fluid and sperm-borne factors that it's not just the sperm, it's proteins, hormones, the small RNA molecules that can affect the reproductive tract, all types of stuff. So okay. Basically, we just have a better definition of what telegony is because it's just outdated. There's a lot more to it than what that original definition was.
Fair enough. And what is it called today? If not telegony, what are we calling it today?
Through sexual intercourse in the video, it would have to do with RNA coding, DNA methylation, and like histomodification all together. And the more research we see on that, the more true it is, because a lot of the previous studies, they would leave out the last possibility of sexual intercourse. I'm not sure why, because they have all their other ducks covered. So if a woman has never had a child, has never had a brother, has never had an abortion, has never had an organ transplant or blood transfusion, and they're still finding a bunch of leftover male markers, where are they coming from? So it's interesting that around 10, 15 years ago, that was scrubbed and they don't want us talking about that.
There are a lot of things that they don't want us talking about, and I agree. There have been times I've done a Google search, and now Google's using AI, which that's another discussion, but they'll pop up to the top and give a summary and the answer will be wrong. Or if you type in, what's the prime birthing age biologically for a human female? It'll pop up an answer that's not the answer based on the female's biology, but rather the answer based on the likelihood of the kid to be successful socially and emotionally and financially and all this stuff based on the parents. And even terms like, it's escaping me at the moment, but geriatric pregnancy, right? So geriatric pregnancy, they're now redefining it to push the age higher so that these women who are having kids later in life feel better about what they're doing. And so we're seeing that the science is taking a back seat, the truth is taking a back seat to ideology and propaganda. So that's why I'm really happy that you're here. You're going to inevitably use a lot of lexical and scientific terms. I ask you that you continue using them because I want people to have the correct, accurate answers. However, there's some terms that I think the masses should know. You mentioned epigenetics.
Yes.
Please elaborate.
Perfect. Because that's, in this videos coming, we're going to be going a lot more into epigenetics, because that is, when you're studying science theory, you always got to go with the predecessor so you know where you came from, so you can figure out where you're going. And epigenetics refers to the study of the changes in gene expression or activity that do not involve alterations to the underlying DNA sequence. These changes can affect how genes are turned on or off and can be influenced by environmental factors, lifestyle changes or experiences. Importantly, epigenetic changes can sometimes be passed down to offspring, even though they don't involve changes in the DNA itself. So we can go over some of the mechanisms that include the regulation, like I brought up before, the DNA methylation, histone modification, non-coding RNA. There's a few other mechanisms that, if like I always forget how to pronounce this properly, microchimerism, which was brought up a lot in the comments in the video that I saw.
Is it reasonable to suggest that epigenetics suggests that environment can have impact on genetics?
Yes, even as far as to say our DNA is never solid. It is always mutating, evolving. Even air pressure changes. Somebody touching your skin will change it for, sometimes genes are turned on and off for seconds, minutes, hours, and years permanently. So yes, I think so. That would be.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. But let's just take this bit by bit, if you don't mind, and then we'll get deeper. But I want to do
alarming. Let me know in the comments. Why women's body count matters biologically. I'm a neuroscientist. Let me explain.
Now, the first thing that we have to deal with is, you say women's body count matters biologically, which is science. And theoretically, you shouldn't be able to argue with science. But I imagine you get a lot of people pissed off and they're arguing not necessarily against you, but against the actual truth.
So, yeah, the original intent behind the video was not to make people upset, was to kind of give both sexes a warning or just information on there on how, if they look into the biology past Reuters and Snopes and all those things, there is a lot of truth to that, which is found in scriptures and stuff as well. A lot of people in the comments were posting how different Christianity, Islam, everything.
I find that to be really fascinating, and increasingly, as I mature and observe the world and observe people, it's just undeniable that spirituality is important to humankind. And there are some things that are embedded in human culture, whether it's our speech culture, music, or what have you, that it just lets you know that we might not necessarily, or shall we say, consciously understand something, but we just know that it's wrong. the idea of a woman having a high body count. Now, I'm guessing a lot of average guys are not neuroscientists or biologists, but they instinctively know it's wrong. There's this gut feeling that it's wrong. For the Muslims in Arabic, they'll say fitra, your natural sense of right and wrong. The Bible speaks of maintaining chastity, and there's just something embedded in human culture that is strictly against women being promiscuous. And now we have the science that's explaining why it actually, like how it manifests physically.
Yes, it's physically, and it's, I think, giving us a more solid understanding of what's happening in society as well, on the downfall of the traditional woman, from what we see that the average American woman is now is not what they used to be. And it's changing the men as well. And I'm sure you say the studies, it's men are giving up, or they become simps, for a simpler term, and they will just take whatever abuse the man or the man will take. And I believe I saw in one of your videos, the men are fine with being a slave to the woman. Yeah. So there's a lot of good that will come from these future tests that will say not only how many bodies the woman has, but exactly who those men are. And we will
preach. I'm here for it.
And then it will also be able to identify some of the genetic traits that are passed down that could be negative. Because I did think about also portraying the side of, oh, maybe it's good, but everything that I understand about genetics, that that it's random. So if I want the most pure chance for my child coming into the future, and I did everything I could as a man to make sure. Yeah. You want to make sure you're with a woman who can also give you that same purity, because she has a Cracker Jack box of things she's just pulling out of and throwing it in there. And it will help because women won't have to be accused and won't have to worry about being lied to. So these tests are going to help everybody. We're really close to doing it.
You know, this stuff is fascinating. And I've even looked at research about how long semen stays in the female body. And I've seen things like up to 5 days the semen can stay in the female body, which has been an important conversation that I've had with the folks who follow me, because when you're dating, which, you know, what does that mean to anyone nowadays is a very blurry thing. But when you're dating and the woman considers herself not exclusive, if she's sleeping with multiple guys, and unfortunately, I don't think people are using condoms on a regular basis. I don't think guys use them unless they're sleeping with prostitutes. I don't think women use them unless they're very, very sexually active and they consider themselves a slore. Otherwise, if there's some emotions involved, I think maybe they'll use it the first time, but not the second time. And so I just don't think condoms are being used at the inappropriate rate, given the realities of female promiscuity. And some of the low things males sink to in terms of engaging with women of the night. With that being the case, and the semen, according to research I've seen, the semen stays in the woman's body for 5 days. Now you're talking about DNA, but that's just filthy. Like that's just on a simple level, it's just filthy and unclean. Now, can you elaborate on if that makes sense? Like what we've been seeing in popular science, saying that the semen stays in the female vagina 5 days, because you're saying the DNA sticks around. So how does it come out in different parts of the woman's body? You mentioned it's been found in the brain and all these other things.
So from what I have researched, as far as semen being able to stay alive in the body, has been up to 7 days, which I agree is not very attractive and pretty disgusting when you do think about it, especially if you're with a woman who is dating multiple men, because more than likely you're mixing it all together. Yeah. So you don't know what you're going to get. You're going to get a conglomerate of who knows.
Not the conglomerate. That's disgusting. Oh boy. Okay.
But once the semen is broken down, because everything, if you look at any cell die like under a microscope, Basically, they kind of die and explode, and then the other cells will take up and use the biomolecular motors and things inside, which part of it is the RNA and everything when it's ripped apart. And one of the new studies I was actually reading again before we came on here, because I'm putting together a bigger list of all the other DOIs for all these further videos. So we're gonna teach people how to read and interpret these, on how it even is carried in the bloodstream for a few days. So I think it may be via bloodstream first, and then it's distributed everywhere else. So I think that might be a good place to start to see its route to where eventually it's going to sit and be used for who knows what, because there's other studies that I've read where they're finding higher concentrations of male RNA that's different, maybe giving women a higher chance of Alzheimer's. So there, and overall, and it makes sense. You can get many sicknesses through sex and other things, and we're finding new things all the time. So that's also a scary thing with the future testing, is we're going to find a lot more lifelong, permanent mental and physical things that are passed down that we will have to watch out for.
No, that's really fascinating, because what you've suggested is that the concept of a sexually transmitted infection or disease has now gone beyond the things that we would expect, the chlamydia, the HPV, the fill in the blank with all the things we're familiar with. And you're saying it can actually go beyond that to things we don't associate with sex itself or the sexual apparatus.
Yes, it's a STD, but it's we have to create a new term for that, because we have not labeled it. It's like a genetic STD, because even they've witnessed behaviors in children that have nothing to do with the father that fathered the child. So they're finding, and it could be from the first one, and from my read, it's the first one, I believe, that has the strongest genetic pairing with the woman. I want to do more research on that. But it does make sense through societal knowledge that we've known for thousands of years. And science is only good as the accuracy of like its measure at the time. So as we develop new technologies, our science is going to improve. And with AI and now the new quantum computers, it's only going to be a few more years.
Gwinsley writes, for Mr. Della Cioppa, is it Cioppa?
Della Cioppa, yes.
Della Cioppa. He writes, what are your thoughts on live blood cell analysis for diagnosing illness and general well-being? That's the first part.
So it'll be amazing. When we implement all these new features on top of this existing technology, we're not going to have to wait. We may be able to do it at home. We may be able to have a kit ordered to the house, test the blood, because it's going to save time, money, heartache.
You know, you said something that we should have dove into before I even started this, but it feels good, but it also hurts. It hurts because the science is coming out a little bit late. The girls surely aren't informed. The guys, we've always wanted a virgin, unless we're mentally ill. And you stated that perhaps the first man there has the greatest imprint on that female, genetically speaking. Is that right?
Yes, I do believe so, because there's evidence that with the certain proteins and molecules in the semen fluid that it leaves an imprint on the female's system. So it affects how they even respond to future sperm in subsequent mates. So including the characteristics. So even though it's still in its early stages, all the growing evidence, we see it in insects, we see it in fish, we see it in rodents, we're going to see it in humans. So it's only a matter of time before we develop a better microscope.
Wow. Right. That part. Wow. So you're saying we're looking at an ocean metaphorically, and we know that there are a lot of things in that ocean. We just can't get to the depth to have that visibility right now, but we know there are things there. that will be discovered in the near term.
And and it's exponential too, because it can become it is genetics, but also when it becomes that woman's frame of mind, her children are most likely going to be like that. So if the woman sleeps with a bunch of men and, to be nice, we'll say dilute her DNA, her child.
Don't be nice, be honest.
I try to be. But if we take a dilution and then we have children, so that child is going to have a diluted imprint, and then she's going to be promiscuous and further dilute the imprint, and then so it's an exponential. And I feel like that's why we're seeing intelligence drop, morality, common sense, because there's a lot of people who are reading those DOIs that said there's no DOIs. And I was like, you're reading the DOI.
Let me know if this makes sense. So I'm dealing with a young lady, and let's not even say she's promiscuous. Let's just say I'm dealing with a young lady. We have intercourse without protection, and fluid is exchanged. And then sometime later, you're dealing with her. And as we can see between you and I'm bald, you have hair. So you have a son, and he doesn't come out black, but he starts to experience premature male pattern balding. Could that be due to me as opposed to you? Because we dealt with the woman that I was with, she's now with you. You procreated with her.
So technically, yes. But then also, too, we would have to take my inheritance into fact. Do I have premature balding? Did I just get lucky? Did it skip a generation?
Right.
So in my case,
take the presumption that you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then there's a slight chance it could come from her side too. So that's what makes it hard right now. That's what makes it hard right now. That's why we need the testing, so we don't have to, to wonder that, because a lot of people are going to have hair or they're going to be balding early. So those are harder to distinguish. But if it's like a super rare genetic disorder that only 1/10% of the entire population has, and X you slept with 5 years ago has that disease, and now your kid does, that would probably, I would say that they should look into that a little bit more too, because that'd be a more rare instance.
So given in the state of the current science, causality would be easier to establish if you're dealing with very rare ailments.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas currently, with advances in science and computing, it would be possible to identify that the son that you had is experiencing premature male pattern baldness, not due to you, not due to the lady, but due to Jack that she slept with, years ago before even meeting you.
Exactly. And if we have these tests done, when you do that, like, oh yeah, your bald hair or your bald head isn't from you, it's from Jack. Exactly. Like, we're going to be able to make that distinction immediately right away. And it's going to help overall for overall health for people as well. Because then you're going to know exactly what you're very susceptible to. We already have testing like that you can see which cancers you may or may not get, depending on if a certain gene is activated or not.
Shout out to Dominic. He writes, can you tell us if there's a cognitive disability for the males who are simps? That's his first question.
Seriously and funny? Probably.
That's right. He writes, what's their mental? What's wrong with their mental? Much like the Instagram comments, why would they support and try to debunk the idea that body count matters biologically and scientifically?
I like one of the main comment that I put on there is probably because they are either realizing that their mother or their sister or their daughter aligns with this and they are in denial, but it's okay. That's how a lot of things start. But if they read more, they'll be okay with it. Hopefully they can help lessen that negative effect on the women around them, because as you can see, it was mostly the women who were very upset, but there were very good women in there as well.
Yes, yeah, there was some level of balance. There was evil, but also some good.
Yeah.
I like what you brought up, and I say this a lot, and people think that I'm only saying it in jest. I am saying it in jest, but I'm also saying it in all seriousness, which is, sometimes your mother is promiscuous, and it's okay to say that. Sometimes your father's an imbecile. It's okay to concede that, because it is what it is. And the worst thing we can do is to create a false consciousness and try to redefine morality just because we love or have affection for our parents or our friends or ourselves. And we really have to get closer to the truth. And we find so often when people strike out and attack you or attack the information you're bringing out, it's because of the emotions. It's because you're speaking to a situation of one of their loved ones. And we have to deal with the truth as it is. And, this is one of the things with me. I love women. I have the utmost respect for them, but I find it so challenging to deal with them in the workplace or just in the voting booth, because I have fear that the emotionalism is going to get in the way of the truth or what is like productive or ultimately good for society.
I agree. It's hard to. There were many instances, even for projects, men get accused, innocent men get accused of all types of things. So I was even scolded for not meeting with a single female late at night to go work on a project. Unfortunately, in today's times, I work too hard to put myself in that type of risk and jeopardy. So it's sad, because I'm sure it probably would have been fine, but you never know now, and everybody knows somebody who was affected by it.
And maybe it was fine when you had the meeting and the next year, but maybe 8 years down the road, it wasn't fine. Like when you become famous and rich, now it wasn't fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed. It's a wild world we're in. This testing, and we got to stay in touch. And I'd love to see how this is commercialized, because I certainly want to be a part of it. Especially if it ever comes to, like, I've seen like certain things progress in a beautiful way. Like, for example, I think HIV testing has like a rapid test you can do at home. Is that correct? I'm not making that up.
I believe they do now. You can even buy them like at Walgreens and CVS. You can buy, and then you want to get it double checked by
you better. Absolutely.
Yeah. Same thing with like a pregnancy test. You're still going to go to the doctor even if it says positive.
And that's a huge jump from where it was. And so it takes it to a level of convenience, privacy, and of course, commercialization to where it can be in every CVS store. And people are definitely going to use it. And I think that what you're talking about will be the same. Just imagining the idea that if you meet a young lady, especially for the religious communities, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mormons, the Joangers, the Amish probably won't use this because it's technology, but the Muslims and all those folks, and you meet a woman and she says she's a virgin, and you say, oh, okay, well, awesome. Like put this strip under your tongue and, let's find out what the numbers are. I mean, I kid you not, it's a true story and it's just outrageous. I was in Morocco, and in the Kingdom of Morocco, I met a young lady. She said, hey, Marquette, I just want to let you know I'm very interested in you. I would be thankful to have a marriage with you, but I want to let you know right now that I'm not going to get the surgery. I was like, the surgery? She was like, yeah, a lot of women in my country, they get surgery to repair the hymen so that they can be viewed as virgins on their marital day, just in case, the sheets are reviewed. So I just want to let you know, I don't want to get that surgery. I'm not a virgin. I have had intercourse one time before with a guy that I thought I was going to marry. And one, I'd never even known this surgery was possible, but just the fact that people get it regularly enough to where she had to make a declaration, I thought was extraordinary. And the fact that women are lying about it. And there's also data on the fact that so many males today, I think it was a third of men on child support, are paying child support for children that are not their own.
That's funny. I was going to bring that up. I saw it was like upwards of 40-something% of that it's not even their own child. And this is going to benefit more men than anything. And the foundation children. Is there. And children a lot. Yes, oh my gosh, yes. Especially for the developing mind. Critical age is between up to 10 years old. You can make a kid a genius. You can make a kid a sociopath. It all depends how that kid is molded those first 10 years. You can make them learn 10 languages with no accent. It's amazing. And the foundation is there for the science. We already have similar types of testing. So it's interesting why it's not been pursued. So if any other scientists want to get together and make this happen, We can.
Mm.
All we need is minds and money. That's it.
Minds and money. Shout out to Kyle. He writes, does the delivery method affect the influence of the male RNA that the male RNA has on the female? I was censored for using the proper term, but mouth, rear, and front. That's a really, really good question.
That did come up in the comments as well. And from what I understand, I do want to see more studies on it, but the mouth breaks it down into its biomolecular motors and it's ingested, and the stomach acid would kill some of it in there. But if it gets absorbed into around the mouth, it shows that it is possible through ingestion as well. I am not 100% sure about the back door. I didn't see anything that tested that, but who knows?
Soon you will. Soon you will.
Yeah, soon we will know.
Right.